Hello, and welcome to the very beginning of what is now our eUnit in ELA. We are going to attempt to do the unit work in an e-learning fashion, and it's going to be okay because I've been going through all of the skills and the teaching points and all of the resources and sources, and I've been rehoning those in a way that would hopefully make it so that you're going to be able to keep up and learn something in the process while we're all working from home. So let's get started. If you remember, I told you last week that what we're doing in order to keep e-learning happening is we're going to blend both of our units together. So our reading unit, which is critical nonfiction for research, and our writing unit, which is the argument position papers, all of the skills are going to be merged into basically one path, one learning path. So you should be able to just follow the instructions each day through e-learning, and you'll be able to get the benefits of both of those units all in one shot. It means that our units are going to go a little bit slower, but that's okay right now. And we're going to do the best we can do with what we have. It's important. I can't emphasize this enough. It is critical. It is massive that you take notes during this unit. You're going to have to. And you need to have a system that will allow you to do that, okay? We're going to need a lot of notes because we're going to have so much information from so many different sources that this is that time where it's like, holy cow, we need to have a system in place before we even get started. So you need to choose how you want to do that and how you want to keep track of all of the learning that's going to be happening in ELA. You have choices. So let me move myself out of the way and I'm going to talk to you. I don't know how to minimize myself, so here we go. You can be a digital note taker. This might be something that you're already familiar with, and that's okay if you are. That means you're using your Google Drive and you have your Chromebook set up here like so, and you are probably going to keep maybe a document for every source, and then under each Google Doc and every source, you'll be adding in all of your new information as you go. And if you want to be digital, that is perfectly fine if you feel more comfortable doing that. If I give you an electronic source, as a digital note taker, you're going to need to use some color coding. You're going to need to create a legend. You're going to need to highlight within the digital texts that I give you so that you can keep things organized and know what it is that you're annotating for. You're going to probably want to make your own folders and things like that in your Google Drive to keep track of the different sources that we're going to be reading and writing about. And you should still probably have some kind of a notebook handy, maybe something to write on just in case. That's up to you. If you decide to be digital, you might say, no way, I'm all digital. I don't even want to do with paper. I don't even want to hold a pencil in my hand. And I would say to you, that's totally fine as long as it's happening. You can't not have a system. You have to have some kind of system, and it has to have a structure. You could, let me move myself up here, decide to be that physical note paper taker, and there's nothing wrong with that either. That's old school, and that's the way Mrs. Olkey learned. Good old-fashioned note cards, where every source basically would have its own card. Or if you want, you can use a spiral. Okay, this is one version of many, but then every piece of paper becomes its own point of information collecting and gathering. Some of you have access to spiral notebooks, some of you don't. Some of you have paper laying around the house, some of you don't. So ultimately, you can choose whatever method works best for you, but you must have a system, or else you are going to be lost by Thursday. Okay, so don't be lost by Thursday. You need to have a system for note taking. So make that your priority today is figuring out, am I digital or am I old school and paper? And then make sure that you have all the supplies that you need in front of you for e-learning every day. Okay, because I will be giving you stuff like every day. It's gonna be great. It's gonna be a lot. Okay, so let's talk about our mindset and what that means for us. So, wait, I think I'm a slide ahead. Hold on. That sounds a little bit fast. Yeah, there we go. Okay, whoop, there we are. Okay, all right. So we are going into a research unit. We are researching a topic. Okay, and as researchers, what we have to do is we have to suspend our own judgment. We have to not allow our own biases to be part of the research process. And that's not easy. It's hard, especially with this particular topic I'm about to tell you about, because you probably have a lot of opinions about this particular topic. And I'm going to ask you to keep an open mind through this whole process. I'm going to ask you to not take the research personally. Don't allow your emotions to cloud your logic. And make sure that you are suspending the need to be right. You don't need to be right. You need to keep an open mind, and you need to be willing to listen and learn. Okay. So how is we as readers can and should suspend our judgment on the issues that we research, weigh, and evaluate. Ideas and information is going to be presented to you from multiple texts and sources, and you need to carefully consider all of their points of view. You have to bring in the evidence. You have to understand how to rationalize it to create a positive argument. And this is one of our key skills is reading nonfiction. We want to be able to read critically, and we want to be able to read deeply. And that means that we don't put a lot of our own emotions into it. We pull that back for now, and then when we begin the writing process, then we can really start to argue with some passion. But during research, we need to suspend our judgment. So suspend judgment during the research part, but then in the writing part is when you can hammer it in, okay? All right, we have to get into the mindset, and that is hard to do. It's kind of like the scientific method, okay? You have to observe, you have to read, you have to listen. You can't jump to the conclusion and just assume that you know it's going to happen, or you might miss something very valuable in the process of understanding. So as the information is presented to you, as you are collecting it in your note-taking system, whatever that will be, you need to be willing to become more of an expert in the process, not the subject. Okay, because regardless of the topic that we're ever talking about, the process is something I want you to take away and transfer into high school. So research, the process of researching, is where you really learn how to hone in better reading skills and writing as well, okay? And don't miss that opportunity. So I'm not asking you to become an expert in your subject. I'm asking you to become an expert in the process of learning, just so you know. The first teaching point we're going to talk about: writers will often suggest a heavily debatable issue, sometimes something that gives us an ethical dilemma, something that's hard, something that's difficult, something that's challenging, something that people have very strong opinions about, and it's worth reading about it, and it's worth writing about it. Because these issues are complicated, when we write about them, we have to pick a side. You have to pick a side and you have to argue it. And you have to do that using all the skills that we can possibly come up with. And in this unit, you're going to learn a lot of writing skills. The unit, again, is blended. So the reading skills and the writing skills are married together or braided together, or however you want to envision it. But you're going to be going back and forth in all of the daily work that Mrs. Olkey has set up for you. So just keep that in mind, that sometimes a skill is going to feel like, should I write this? Wait, okay, I'm writing. And sometimes a skill is going to be like, oh, okay, I'm reading, I'm thinking this now. I want to think this way. I want to take notes. I want to kind of allow that to be a reading skill for myself. And just keep that in mind, that we are blending it all together. That's important. Okay, let me move myself out of the way here. Why are we starting this way? Okay. The topic that we're going to be debating is violence and how it affects teens, specifically violence in video games and role-playing games. And it's a hot topic. It's been on the forefront of a lot of ethical debates now for probably a good 15 to 20 years, maybe even longer. When I was your age, the video games that we used to play didn't have the graphics that you guys have access to now. And so there really wasn't as much of a controversy about what it was that a kid was exposed to in the 80s and early 90s. It was more exciting that there was even a possibility to be doing that. Nowadays, the graphic cards and the games that are played are very, very controversial. And the question is would we look at that and say, maybe there are limitations to what should be allowed? So the issue of how violence shapes and affects teenagers is pretty serious. And you're going to be thinking about the impact of simulated violence on teens. Now, whether that's a video game or even a role-playing game, I want you to think of I could sit down in front of a screen and I can play, like Call of Duty, or I could also go in my backyard and shoot my neighbors with my Nerf gun. Both of those are simulated violence, and both of those are role playing, where we're playing in a way where the object of the play is to kill, and then therefore we're in that zone of violent thinking. So we're going to be comparing the idea of this imaginary violence versus the real world violence, and looking at that from an ethical point of view. We're also going to look at how teenagers should be treated when it comes to this issue. You're going to have some arguments that say, oh my gosh, no, my kids, I trust them, total freedom, whatever they need. I know that they're not going to become terrible, psychotic killers in the future. They're raised well, they can handle it, they have total freedom. Whereas you might also find that there are parents who say, oh no, as soon as there's blood on the screen, my child has absolutely no access to that. They don't need to be exposed to any type of violence in that way, shape, or form in any way. And you might have parents or people who argue a moderated blend, where it's like, at a certain point, maybe the age would be 13. We could say, yeah, at 13, they've got it. They could figure this out. But anything prior to that, maybe we need to be a lot more careful. Basically, what I'm trying to say is the debate can go lots of different ways. And you're going to be honing your own argument skills, recalling and putting into play some of the things that you've already developed in 7th grade. And we're going to add more kind of argumentative logic, reasoning, fallacies, and things like that to make sure that you are arguing in a way that helps to convey your thinking on the topic. Okay? It's a real life problem. It's a real life debated issue. It is relevant, especially nowadays as graphics get better, as games get more graphic, as things are happening in the world, virtual reality. I've played it myself, and it's very real to me. Even if it's a cartoon, my body still reacts in the same way. So I think that as technology catches up, we're going to find that this is still an issue that continues to be debated and argued. This is your turn. All right. Whoops. All right. So yes, there will be sources in our research process. All right. You're going to get 5 from Mrs. Zulke. I'm going to hand them right to you. They're going to be set up in slides. You're going to go through the slides. You're going to read. You're going to listen. You're going to watch. And I'm going to say, this is a source. This is one of the sources you must use. And there are 5 of those. Okay. In addition, you will have access to about 5 more. And they're not going to be as overt, and I'm not going to stuff them into your face. But I am going to say you can use them, and they're great sources. And there's no reason not to use them. So all in all, you're going to have a minimum of 5 and a maximum of 10 sources for your research, okay? And this is where we go back to that note taking, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I hope the kids understand that they have got to keep notes because that's a lot to keep track of, okay? So 5 formal sources from me, and you need to collect all of the evidence that I give you. In addition to that, the ones that are the extra ones, pro-con, you're going to have access to. There's going to be a Commonlit this Wednesday that will give you another source. Actively Learn that you did on Friday was actually a source. Yay. Okay. And then the videos that are embedded within the lesson. Okay. And there are a lot of those too. You need to remember that none of these sources are going to come out and say, video games are bad or video games are great. Oh my gosh, it's not going to happen like that. You have to read between the lines, and you're going to learn a writing technique where you're going to learn how to spin and angle your evidence in a way that it makes it so that it works for your argument. So be prepared because that is coming. Are you ready? Okay. If you're ready to get started, a couple big things that you got to keep in mind, okay? You need to be prepared. You need to be organized for this unit, and you need to have your note-taking system figured out. Like, are you paper or are you digital? And then you need to exercise whatever plan that you decide to put into place with fidelity. That means stick to it, be true, and don't drop it. Because if not, you're going to be a hot mess, and it's going to be hard to help you recover. You need to be self-disciplined. Mm-hmm. I'm thinking of kids right now, like in my head, I have students, I'm like, oh yeah, I know I need to look them right in the eyes and say, you need to be self-disciplined, okay? I know it's going to be hard. It's okay though, okay? I'm here to remind you. I wish I could be near you. I wish I could tell you in your face. I can't. So this one's on you and you got to do this, okay? You can do it. I know you can do this, but you got to do it. Okay. All right. And you need to make sure you communicate, because if something goes wrong or you get, something, you lose track or you're a day or two off, then you need to get a hold of me right away so I can help you out, because we're going to go very fast. It's not going to be a lot fast, but it's going to be next fast. Okay. And then if you do get lost, then you have everything you need to backtrack into wherever it was that you kind of got a little bit mixed up, and you'll be able to get yourself hopefully back on track. Okay. If you're ready to get started, then head over to Flipgrid. Oop, that way. Wait, hold on. No, that. Oh, I don't even know. Okay, there. Go there. Go to that one right there. Go to Flipgrid. We're going to start off with our Monday circle, okay? And I will talk to you very shortly. Your lesson is in Google Classroom, but do Flipgrid first, okay? Talk to you later. Be good. And let's see if I can remember how to turn this off. I think it's Control-Shift-R. Yay, did it. All right.